I wanted to share something for the record, but also in hopes of understanding. I had to take some paperwork to the federal court today, and I got some news that had me feeling like another boulder was dropped on my chest, directly on top of all the other boulders that slowly suffocated me. The news was that the TRO that I filed was denied. And it's very easy to feel as if you do not matter in this system, because that's what that left me feeling like. So what did I do? I appealed it, along with an affidavit that I'm going to share with you now. This affidavit speaks to the hardship that we've endured regarding the kidnapping of my daughter. And it goes as follows. Affidavit of psychological, emotional, physical, and spiritual hardship. I, Heaven-Marshay Hope, being duly sworn, declare and affirm as follows. Identity and capacity. I am the natural and lawful mother and guardian of my minor daughter, Nevaeh Naomi Nash, age 9. I am competent to testify to the matters herein, and all the statements are made from my personal knowledge and lived experience. Unlawful seizure of my child. On August 13, 2025, my daughter was abruptly and unlawfully seized from my custody by Bedford Police Department, acting under an unlawful warrant. On August 13, 2025, my daughter was abruptly and unlawfully seized from my custody by the Bedford Police Department, acting under an unlawful warrant issued by the Bedford Municipal Court and supported by the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas in concert with the defendant, Isaiah Miles Nash. At no time did I lawfully consent to the removal of my daughter. This constitutes kidnapping under the color of law, carried out through coercion, retaliation, and willful disregard for my rights as a guardian and my child's well-being, psychological and emotional harm. Since the unlawful invasion of my home and seizure of my daughter, I have experienced unbearable emotional trauma consistent with post-traumatic stress disorder. I suffer from recurring nightmares, hypervigilance, panic attacks, and overwhelming anxiety. I am functioning through depression. My children have been re-traumatized through fear, confusion, and repeated references to their missing sister. This trauma has fractured our family's sense of safety and stability. Physical and spiritual hardship. The stress and grief has manifested in physical symptoms, including disrupted sleep, loss of appetite, exhaustion, and difficulty breathing. Spiritually, this has shaken the very foundation of my faith, leaving me in constant anguish while still clinging to the truth that my daughter must be returned without delay. Unbearable family hardships. Nevaeh's abrupt removal has devastated her siblings and our entire household. My son, who turned 6 on August 19th, grieved deeply at the absence of his sister on his birthday. a wound no guardian should have to watch their child endure. The deprivation of Nevaeh's presence has inflicted unbearable harm on her family unit, stripping us of joy, peace, and wholeness. Accountability of defendants. The defendants, including but not limited to the Bedford Police Department, Bedford Municipal Court, Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas, and Isaiah Malamash, are all directly responsible for kidnapping under the color of law, violating my rights as the minor's lawful guardian, inflicting psychological, emotional, physical, and spiritual harm upon me, my daughter, and our family. Conclusion. The harm that we continue to endure is unbearable and unbearable until Nevaeh is restored to my custody. I affirm that every word herein is true and correct to the best of my knowledge, and I submit this affidavit to establish the gravity of harm and the necessity of urgent release. Systemic intimidation through arrest and release. On August 13, 2025, plaintiff was unlawfully arrested, booked, fingerprinted, photographed, and brought before the court only to be released without lawful cause or justification. This process was not only unnecessary, but it was also carried out for the purpose of intimidation, coercion, forced compliance, and to create the false appearance of legitimacy for the defendant's misconduct. The arrest served no lawful purpose beyond generating a record and attempted to portray the plaintiff as a criminal. The psychological and emotional impact of being handcuffed, processed, and treated like a criminal despite committing no crime has been devastating. This deliberate misuse of law enforcement authority inflicted severe trauma. The deliberate misuse of law enforcement authority inflicted severe trauma, intensified plaintiff's PTSD symptoms, and reinforced the coercive tactics already used to deprive the plaintiff of her child. Such conduct demonstrates a pattern of harassment and retaliation under the color, and further evidences the bad faith actions of Bedford Police Department, Bedford Municipal Court, and associated defendants. Defamation of character and false narrative creation. Defendants acting under the color of law have deliberately defamed plaintiff's character by creating a false appearance of criminality by arresting, booking, fingerprinting, and photographing plaintiff only to release her without lawful cause. Defendants intentionally manufactured a false record of damage, a false record to damage plaintiff reputation, credibility, and standing as a lawful guardian to her child. This conduct was not legitimate. It was not a legitimate exercise of law enforcement authority, but rather a malicious attempt to portray the plaintiff as unfit, unstable, or unlawful in order to justify the unlawful seizure of her minor child. The impact of this defamation has been devastating, socially, emotionally, and spiritually. As plaintiff is forced to endure the stigma of false criminal record while simultaneously fighting for the return of her child. Defendant's actions constitute slander, libel, and reputational harm carried out in bad faith, in direct violation of plaintiff's constitutional rights, psychological harm, and post-traumatic stress. The unlawful invasion of the plaintiff's home by the Bedford Police Department and cooperating defendants have caused profound and lasting psychological harm. Armed forces forcibly entered plaintiff's residence with guns drawn, terrorizing both the plaintiff and her family. During this invasion, the plaintiff was told she had brought this on herself, further compounding the coercion and intimidation used against her. As a result of this traumatic experience, the plaintiff has developed system consistent with the post-traumatic stress disorder. Now she lives in constant state of hypervigilance, unable to rest or feel safe in her own home. Normal sounds such as knocking at the door trigger extreme panic responses. The plaintiff's young son recently repeated someone's banging on the door and screaming, reliving the invasion, which caused the plaintiff to shake uncontrollably and experience overwhelming fear, despite no actual threat being present. The home, once being a place of safety has become a source of terror. The plaintiff can no longer place her phone on silent as she's compulsively monitors for any sound near her door, fearing another unlawful entry. These symptoms illustrate a severe psychological distress directly caused by the defendant's misconduct and abuse of power, ongoing harm, and delay of procedure. The continued requirement to await court procedure and permission to regain custody of my daughter, despite the blatant violations of my inalienable rights, has compounded the psychological and emotional harm inflicted upon me and my children. That this enforced waiting period is re-traumatizing, as if it falsely suggests my authority as Nevaeh's mother is conditional, when in truth no one possesses superior rights to her custody or care. That every passing day of separation deepens the unbearable harm already endured, exacerbates my post-traumatic stress disorder caused by the unlawful invasion of my home and abduction of my child, and inflicts devastating emotional injury upon Nevaeh and her siblings. This entire experience from the very beginning has been deeply traumatizing and psychologically exhausting. The blatant disregard for my rights as both a human being and a mother is no small matter. I have exhausted every possible avenue to secure recognition and enforcement of my inalienable rights. Yet instead of receiving lawful relief, I have been met with unbearable and unjustifiable harm. Justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Martin Luther King Jr. I am not behind, I am aligned. I speak the law of truth, not fear. Every false structure around me must fall. My words hold weight, my light reveals lies, and I stand protected spiritually, lawfully, and divinely. All right reserves, all submissions made in truth. Honor in a good faith, respectfully, Heaven-Marshay hope. I promise I feel like I'm dying, and I'm not exaggerating. It takes everything in me to continue this fight, especially when I know no one's rights supersedes my own as a mother in regards to Nevaeh. This is a fact, and since the normal route is compliance, they're really forcing me to fight for my rights. With the unbearable pain that I am dealing with after they kidnapped my child, this is beyond cruel, and I genuinely don't have the energy for anything else. I am putting all of me into fighting this fight. I am struggling to simply exist. Another mother commented on my post and said, "It never gets easier," referring to the unbearable pain that I feel. And that shit made me so sad, because this is coming from someone who's consented and still has been mistreated. Children were still taken, and she doesn't know what to do. And she doesn't know what I know. And for anyone mentioning consent to me, y'all need to go back and watch my videos from the beginning. I am fighting for freedom, and the enslavement and compliance still seem like the more detrimental route to me. I'm not giving up on my rights nor my child. And if y'all still don't believe me, I guess you just have to watch.